Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me here on Chatting Up the Irish. Tonight I'm talking to an amazing wire sculptor called Glenn Gibson. He is based in Galway. He talks to us about a studio that he's just opened. He talked to us about an organisation that he has called Art in Mind. And we talk about all that Galway has to offer. So hang with us for about 30 minutes and please enjoy the show. Hello everybody, you're very welcome again to this episode of Chatting Up the Irish. Tonight I'm speaking to a very interesting man. His name is Glenn Gibson and he is an amazing wire sculptor. He's living in Galway, County Galway. You're actually living in the city of Galway, Glenn, aren't you?
That's right, yeah.
But you've lived all over Galway. You've lived in Clare as well. Tell us a little bit of where you've spent your time.
I think the first county I moved to after leaving home was County Clare over in Doolin.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was a chef there for a couple of years. Oh, that's a long time ago now. And then when I went to America, actually, after that, and I was there for nearly 20 years. And then when I moved back home, I moved to Oughterard, which they claim is the gateway to Connemara. I think there might be another couple of towns claim that as well.
Yeah, there is.
There's a few gateways into Connemara.
Yeah.
But I loved it out there. I mean, I was only really on the edge between, you know yourself where Oughterard is.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I often went out to Clifton. I was part of a gallery in Clifton.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd do that drive between Oughterard and Clifton 2-3 times in a weekend. So I just know the area really well. It's beautiful out there.
Do you ever go out to let's say Carna or Spiddle or any of those places?
Oh yeah. As a kid we used to go fishing in Spiddle up to Lough Moor, I think it's called.
Yeah. And do you have, I know that you've opened up your own gallery, but we won't go there yet, but I'm just wondering, do you ever have any artwork shown in the craft village in Spiddle there?
No, not personally, but I've been out there. There's a few really nice places out there.
Yeah.
Some lovely stuff.
I bring some of my tours out there as well, Glenn, and they love it. They love that whole little village there because, you know, with the glass cutting and the jewellery and the weaving and everything, it's fantastic. You really some amazing, gifted people in Ireland. There really is.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, and even in Galway city itself, there's so much, you know, like there's instrument makers and there's all little craft shops and of course the claddering craft shops as well. I love the one where they have the little museum out the back.
Right.
Yeah, and you can see the smallest claddering in the world, I think.
That's where I'm from. I'm from the Claddagh.
Oh, are you? Do you know a baron maker called Michael Vignoles?
I know the name, yeah. I know
him very well.
So he sells through, some of his products sells through QBC.
Yes.
I did the Connemara Hawthorn tree was part of a QBC offering in 2018, I think it was.
And how did it do?
Oh, it went well. It went really well.
Brilliant.
But because each one is so unique and each one is made by like bees.
Yeah. Yes.
The idea of doing another order was kind of scary. It's very physical, very demanding to fulfill that level. So
that's
I kind of went back to the more, you know, a few here, a few there, very bespoke stuff.
Yeah. How did you start? How did you get it? It's a very unusual art to get involved in. Glenn, how did that whole thing come about?
Totally by accident. As I said, I lived in America for a long time and I worked in a corporate job. So I did real estate and facilities management for a large database engineering company over there. And at the time I was based in Concord, Massachusetts, and every Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it was, all my counterparts all around the world would all dial into a conference call. And they lasted hours. And you would have 5 minutes to speak about whatever project you were working on. And then you'd listen to someone in like Mumbai talking about carpet or paint. It was just dull. So there was a bowl with full of jumbo paper clips. and just out of boredom started making little people out of these paper clips just to kill the time while I was listening to the paint choices in in Australia or
That
somewhere like that.
isn't that amazing?
And then people around the office would ask if they could have them. So it's kind of a bit of a thrill making things that, you know, people enjoyed. And then I discovered reels of wire at the local hardware store, and then it just got out of hand.
Or it got in hand,
And,
whichever way you want to look at it.
right.
And ladies and gentlemen, you know, he's talking about little paper clips and what he did with them. Wait till you see, I'm going to show some photographs later on of what this man creates. And if ever you wanted an unusual or a really special gift to give anyone, I'm telling you, you will not go wrong with one of his items. They're absolutely amazing. So that's how it started, Glenn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
And that was 21 years ago, because the time I was working at that company, it was the turnover to the year 2000 when we all thought everything would stop.
Oh yeah, that's right. How quick we
Y2K.
forget.
Y2K is a small problem. We'd love to have that just to deal with right now,
Yeah,
wouldn't we?
yeah. Oh dear God. So
Yeah.
you came back home to Ireland, and did you come back home to work, or did you come back home to set up your your craft and your business?
No, I actually came back because my mum got was ill, so came back for in 2008, and unfortunately she passed at the end of that year. So it had been several months, and things were a little bit different back then. Things were kind of, well, 2008, where everyone remembers 2008. That's when the fan got a rather large dose delivered. Um, so it made more sense to stay here. I worked with my brothers, who are commercial screen printers and sportswear. So I worked with them for a while, but all the time I was working on sculpture in the background as a hobby. And I did try in 2009, I think it was, to make it full time, but just didn't stick. It was just a difficult time in Ireland, well, all over the place. But then 4 years ago, I took the leap again and signed the lease for a premises and just opened up my own workshop and studio.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And where
No,
is your studio? Whereabout in Galway is it?
it's called the Lisbon Industrial Estate.
Lisbon.
So
Okay.
it's one of the older light industrial estates on the outskirts of the city centre. But since this was built, the city centre is starting to grow up around it now. So it's a really nice area. We've a boutique hotel just across the road. So quite often guests that come to do my workshops, I know we'll talk about them in a while.
Mhm.
They can stay at this. Well, there's a choice. There's a choice of 3 or 4 hotels within 2 minutes walk, and loads of restaurants and city park walks and stuff like that. So I love it.
So all right, let's talk about this now because my mind is rolling with regard to the tours, you know. So people can just go in and visit your gallery,
Yeah.
right?
At the
But people
moment, it's by appointment. Yeah.
by appointment, well, of course, because of COVID. But let's say in 2022, when everything is wide open again and
Yeah.
people can start, you know, working and making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So I could ring you up a few weeks before and I could say, can I bring a group of what, 20, 24 people to your gallery?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that not only that, but they can come in and experience making a small project for themselves.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yes.
Yeah.
And supposing people wanted to spend the day and they wanted to do a workshop for, let's say, maybe 3 or 4 hours, is that
Yeah.
possible?
Yep. So at the moment, there's a 2-hour version of the workshop online. But usually what would happen, the ones in person are 5 hours, but there's an hour for lunch in between.
Yeah.
So we either catered the lunch, or people could go to any number of places that are within walking distance to get some
This is
food.
brilliant. You see, I'm meeting so many people through chatting up the Irish that I can now talk to with regard to my tours and offer
Absolutely. Yeah.
some amazing, amazing events to do. Do you know?
Yeah.
Apart from even just going in and seeing some of your amazing work, I mean, to be able to go in and learn, but you do offer Zoom classes. Talk about
Yeah.
those.
So for maybe 2-3 years, I've been running workshops, physical, live ones in the workshop, in the studio. And then when all this happened, I just started to think about how could I make it work. It was nerve-wracking because sometimes it doesn't translate, and in the in-person workshops, it would be a little bit more hands-on. So if someone's in
Yeah.
difficulty, I can jump in and literally help them with. But you can't on Zoom, and you have to kind of point and say, do this or do that. But it's been fantastic. In many ways, it's better on Zoom. So what happens is you buy the workshop kit. Now the workshops are for making trees, and then there's another one for making figures or people, but the kit's the same.
Yeah.
So you receive what's essentially a 12-inch pizza box, and inside the pizza box is enough wire for the project, a pair of pliers, a pair of gloves, and some information about the non-profit that I founded with another businessman, called Art in Mind. So there's information in there about that. So then your box gets delivered, and it doesn't matter where in the world you are. You can, obviously there's going to be the time zone difference, but you receive your box, and when you've received your box, you just look for one of the workshops on my website that suits your schedule. You send me an email and say, I want to book into this one. And then it's a Zoom call. You're just on there, usually with between 5 and 10 other people. And that's it. It's usually over and done in 2 hours. And at the end of the beginner's tree workshop, you have a tree sculpture for yourself to keep. And if you're doing the figures, then you obviously have a figure at the end of the 2 hours.
It's amazing. It really is a brilliant idea. It really is a brilliant
Yeah,
idea. Talk to me about the Art in Mind. It's for mental health, is it?
it is. So when I um, I did this fast-paced job in America for so long, and I didn't really respond very well to the pressures that were put in it. So I had a little bout of addiction, let's say,
Okay.
and it was when I was coming through the other side of that, it was sculpture that helped me focus my mind to stop all this constant noise, and instead it would just be this calm. And over the years, I found myself going into the studio whenever I had something to figure out or some difficult situation. I'm not saying I found the answers in the studio,
But it
but it,
rested your mind. Yes.
yeah. And then it gave me the space to think of it differently, or maybe approach it differently.
Yeah.
So I recognized that was a fact, that it had a benefit on my mental well-being. And then when I did that large order for QVC, I taught someone how to help me. And it was after that she said that she felt this calming effect. Oh, there's definitely something into it. So I did some reading, and there's loads of research out there, some wonderful studies that have been done all around the world that clearly indicate the benefit creative practice can have on our mental health.
Of course, yeah.
So then I came up with this idea for a really large sculpture installation, which would have been a hall full of life-size humans made from wire. And there would be 108 of them, and you'd have to go in and walk a path through this crowd. And what it was to do was to invoke the sensation of being in a crowd, but feeling alone or isolated, which so many, in fact, I've yet to ask someone, have you ever been in a crowd and felt alone or isolated? I've yet to have someone say no.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone seems to have experienced this. Anyway, long story short, we were going to deliver that sculpture installation through a series of community collaborative workshops, and have the community come in and help us make these figures. And in order to do that, I set up with a few other artists, we set up a nonprofit called Art in Mind, whose tagline is mental well-being through creative practice. That's it. That's the height and breadth of the mission, is to get people to make things, and that's it. It's just come in, make. and the value is in the process, and isn't in the process of making it. It isn't even necessarily about the end result, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's about immersing yourself in that process.
Of course, it's kind of like anything else. It's even if you're about to have a panic attack, if you can take the brain away from what you're thinking about and take it away from that and give it something nice to think about,
Yeah, yeah,
then it kind of works. It's kind of like the same thing with music. I'm a traditional singer, and all my family are
absolutely.
traditional musicians, and it is really good for the mind and the soul to be able to just actually after this, do you know what do you know what I'm doing after this, Glenn? I'm over in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to join in my Sligo traditional musician, my Sligo traditional singers for their singing club. Once a month they have it, and
Very good.
we're going to do it on Zoom.
Very good. That's
Yes, yeah,
fantastic.
it
A little
is,
bit
and
of
it's just
Ireland over in Kentucky.
yeah. I'm over in Kentucky, and I'm going to be singing traditional songs and joining my friends over in Sligo.
Very good.
But you see, there you go, and it's a great idea, and it gives people it relaxes their mind, and it is you say it's not necessarily about the end result, but for anybody that makes anything, for them the end result is great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That they can be able to, they're looking at it and they're watching it and think, well, it's not expert, but I made it.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
obviously something, it's a woman or it's a dog or it's whatever.
yeah.
And for some people, you might be actually tuning in on a gift that they didn't know they had.
Right. That has been one of the biggest surprises and biggest thrills is seeing there's a handful, maybe 5 or 6 over the few years that are now regularly using the same method and principles and then taking it further and developing it in their own styles.
There you go.
So yeah, it's fantastic to be able to. So the art and mind thing, because of COVID, it dropped. It just fell off nothing has happened. So then during the first lockdown, I met a guy called Paul O'Neill, fantastic local businessman. And over a series of long, socially distanced coffees,
Yeah.
we decided to expand the idea of art and mind. And what we did is took his 2 units next to mine, and we've now created workspace for 15 artists. We have a gallery. So we've created this thing during lockdown. Maybe not the wisest thing to do.
Well, maybe it's the exact thing to do. That I think
Well,
that's brilliant.
I think so too. So we don't have 15 artists working there. We have, I think 6 is the count today, which is super comfortable given that everyone needs to feel comfortable and safe. So we're on different schedules. We use different rooms at different times. It's rare that, if ever, there's even 2 people working in the same room.
Hmm.
And then in this building with my office and downstairs, the gallery and my workspace, which is where we hold all the workshops as well. So it's gone from this idea to deliver one thing, but we were thrown this curveball where we were all thrown the same curveball.
Yeah.
So the joke was pivot and adapt. So we
But you
did.
did. So tell me, what sort of other artists? Because I looked at your website, but I want people to know. Tell people what other type of artists are in that collaboration or will be.
Right. Well, currently in working on the daily, as they say, we have Carly doing ceramics, like traditional and non-traditional. And then we have Orla is also a ceramicist. She does slip cast. And then we have Ivana is a painter, fantastic painter. We have Julia Doonan, who is a photographer. We also have Jane Hambury, just a general practitioner of art of all kinds and marketing genius. She's actually the marketing director for Art and Mind.
Brilliant.
Then we have Connor, is another sculptor. He actually started off as one of the students at the workshops and has developed his craft and is now making all kinds of things.
Brilliant.
And there's a few more that we're hoping will join us soon. But in the minute, it's the core 5 or 6.
Yeah. I'm going to show us some. I took some photographs off your Facebook.
I'm dying to see which one you picked because it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I've picked a few. I've picked a few, so I want you to talk to me about them.
Okay.
I just see. I have to find them now first of all. This Zoom is great in one way, and then oh, I love this one. Wait till we see. First of all, wait till we see. Yeah, I'm going to do this one first of all. Tell me about that one.
Oh, it's called Sakura. It's right behind you.
All right, I'm going to get out of the way.
That's Sakura. That's my nod to Japanese cherry blossom.
Yeah.
So that's rose quartz stone on a copper tree, which is perched on a piece of bog oak. And that bog oak would be about 7,500 years old.
And where would you have gotten that?
I have a very good friend who's been combing the bogs for years.
You should go up to Gertrude. There's any amount of bogs up there.
I know, but the funny thing is, people go and they see a piece of oak in the bog and they drag it out and bring it to me. Sure, it has to be dried in a shed for years before I can do anything with
You
it.
can get it. Now, here's another one. I love that one. That's typical.
Oh yeah, that was from my first show in Ireland actually. In 2008, I had my first solo exhibition, and that was just one of several trees that I made for that exhibition. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What we see now? There was a great one. Oh, well, let's see. Let me see where. Oh, yes. I want to know where this is.
That restaurant has since closed. It's in a restaurant.
No.
There's a very, very famous street in Galway called Quay Street, which is
Yes.
part of the Latin Quarter, which is an entire area of the town, which is pedestrianized and just full of some of the best eateries and drinkeries that you can find.
Absolutely. I know
And
it well.
that piece was on, do you know Nocton's Bar on Quay
I
Street?
do know Nyachtons, yeah.
Well, this was the restaurant upstairs. It was called, oh, I just blanked the name of it. But anyway, it'll come to me in a sec. Artisan.
Artisan.
And that tree was 10 feet long and 6 feet tall and went over the bar.
It was beautiful, absolutely. What about this one?
I can only see her backside, but I know the piece. So my first public showing of art anywhere was in Harvey Milk's old camera shop in the Castro in San Francisco.
Yeah,
and that picture was taken in it. Yeah, that's all my work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see that series along the bottom. I was fascinated with capturing movement in form.
It's amazing. Here's another beautiful. Your work is absolutely amazing, Glenn. That is fantastic. I love this one.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's stainless steel. It's a stainless steel tree, and it's really wide, long and tall, but not very wide. So it fits on a really narrow shelf.
Yeah. But let's see. There was another beautiful one that I saw, and I didn't take it down, and I should have. It was the wood. It was a long piece of wood with a tree.
Oh yeah. That's downstairs actually.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that is. It's called the fairy tree.
Look, don't I look like now just with that behind me?
Listen,
I look like something, supernatural.
Game of Thrones going on there.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolute. So, a question for you. How will I put this? Supposing I had an idea in my head and I wanted to do something, I wanted a particular type of a piece created. Do you do that?
I do that an awful lot, actually.
Do you?
People usually have specific spaces they want to fill. And the tree figure is very good at doing that.
Yeah.
I've had people give me dimensions of specific niches that they wanted to fill. I had a couple at an art fair approach me, and they were in the middle of building a house, and they changed the plans for the living room and had a niche built above the fireplace specifically to fit a tree similar to the size of the one that's behind you there.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, and my feeling is if you commission a piece, I'm not sure about other artists, but if you usually if you commission a piece within a certain price range, I err on the plus side. You don't want someone commissioning and going, oh, is that it? Is that all I get?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I normally really
Make it
fill
big.
the space. So it's a very good way to stretch the budget.
So let's say somebody in America wanted something like that. Maybe would you be able to ship something like that?
I,
You
I
would.
want I have one shipping actually this week. It's on its way to Boston, to our friend Joe Loughlin.
Yeah,
So yeah, I have a very good relationship with a shipping company that's literally over the wall next door,
brilliant.
and they're experts on art shipping. So they package it themselves, they make sure it's all secure, and they do all the documentation, and they walk it through basically. So I'm super confident about shipping. And my stuff, I'm fortunate enough over the years, my work has shipped to, a lot of places.
Brilliant. There you
Yeah.
go. You know, when you follow your heart and do what you have to do, you could have ended up, staying in that company in Boston and ended up dying a very early death.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
The dark
when
battle.
you take that leap of faith and you know that you were the way I look at it is, everybody's got a talent. They've been given a God-given talent, and
Right.
when you take that leap of faith and say, okay, I believe that I'm good enough to do this, and just do it, and really believe that you can do it. Anything is possible.
It's true.
It is.
You have to believe in it, but you have to work toward it as
Oh, you have
well.
to work. Oh, yeah.
No.
That's the thing. People think that all they have to do is sit down and meditate and believe, but you have to put the work in as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know.
And it's not glamorous. I was just saying to someone today that an exhibition, the opening night of an exhibition, is the full stop at the end of a sentence, or the period at
Yes,
the end of a
exactly.
sentence.
It's
There's the entire
exactly
sentence.
yeah. It's exactly the same with music.
Yeah,
I've toured all over America and Europe and Ireland and England, and everybody thinks it's a glamorous life. They have no earthly idea what it takes. I mean, the concert, the few hours up on stage is as you said, the full stop. And
yeah,
it's not quite because you have to undo, you have to unpack everything and travel again,
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. It's crazy.
it is, but still,
But
life,
you enjoy doing it though. So it's. I don't work anymore.
yeah.
I haven't retired, but I don't work. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I never made money at it, but I loved it and I loved meeting the people. And it was actually through performing at concerts and talking about the old traditional songs and the history of them. And people would come up and they'd say, did you ever think about putting a group together and bring them over to Ireland to show them all these places that you talk about?
Oh,
Now,
right. Yeah,
Glenn,
yeah,
when that's said to you 4 or 5 times or 5 or 6 times, you really don't take any heed. But when it's said to you 20 and 30 times, the
yeah,
exact same sentence, you
yeah.
think, okay, I've got to listen to this. And
You're
then I
being
realized,
told.
yeah, you can bring business home and you can give people a unique experience because, like, for instance, people will come to see you now. I'm going to be bringing people to see your work, and hopefully people will get to experience doing workshops with you.
Part of what we're offering in Art and Mind when we are allowed is we have a network of dozens of artists in the city center itself, and but also in the county as well. So we would be happy to. We have an art tour that maybe we could talk about.
Oh, that'd be
Uh,
brilliant. Yeah.
so it's in. So you get to see the studios of the artists and where they work, which I think it tells an awful lot more of the story when you see the environment that they're working in, and
Oh, yeah.
almost see the thought process. And
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a friend of mine, he's a Leitrim glass cutter, and he's a small little shop in Carrick and Shannon, but he brings my groups in and shows them how he actually cuts the glass. And he's one of the very few that actually hand cuts glass anymore
oh, well, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
it seems to be done by a machine, you
right,
know. Um, and then, of course, I bring people into Michael Vignoles' workshop where they see him making barons, and he
yeah, yeah,
makes uilleann pipes as well.
that's
And
right,
it's just a different experience.
yeah,
It's one thing watching a musician. possibly playing these or looking at a beautiful piece of Leitrim crystal, but when you actually see the craftsman actually working on it,
Right.
it gives it a whole new
It does.
um, dimension to it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so Glenn, if people wanted to order from you or contact you, or if you know, I will be talking to you one way or another. But if, let's say, if there's people that are not necessarily coming on my tours, but find themselves in Galway and they'd like to see your work, how do they contact you?
Easiest way is to go on the website, glengibsonsculpture.com.
Now,
Uh,
spell Gibson for people just to make sure that they.
it's Glenn with two N's as well. So GLENNGIBSONSCULPTURE.
Yes, .com. So I'll put that down on the link below
Thank you.
when I'm
But I
doing.
also do work with Crafters of Ireland. So that's another you're familiar with, obviously, with
Yeah.
the Crafters of Ireland and Bernie's great work there. So yeah, craftersofireland.com. I'm on .ie or .com. Check both because I
Yeah,
find
yeah, yeah. I'll
uh,
check it anyway. Yeah, so I interviewed, you know, David Sheridan, the wood sculptor from
yeah,
wood carver from Gorey.
yeah.
Yeah, he does some
Stephen is
amazing work. Stephen, sorry.
uh,
Yeah,
his work is phenomenal.
yeah, he does some amazing work.
Yeah, it's funny because I look at other people, other artists' work, and think, geez, I wouldn't be able to that now. I wouldn't be able to do that. I always say I couldn't draw to save my life. I don't design any of these ahead of time. They just happen.
It just happens as you're going along, isn't that
Usually,
amazing?
yeah,
But you must have an eye for stuff, though, Glenn. You must like. I mean, that Connemara Hawthorne.
yeah,
I mean, you must at some stage looked at it and thought, yes,
yeah, absolutely. It's. I had been looking for a way to when an artist makes a nice painting, they can copy it and make prints, and they can generate a little income from prints. Whereas there's no way I can print mine. The 3D printers are not up to speed yet on the level of detail that's in these things. So I figured
yeah,
out a way of kind of replicating these where they come out always they're not all they're not identical. Each one is unique, but at a glance they have very similar characteristics. So it was my way of doing a repeatable um, figure or
yeah,
tree.
yeah.
So that worked out.
Brilliant stuff. Well,
Yeah.
I will be talking to you because I will be bringing. I like to try and you know, include Galway. And most of my tours are kind of up in the northwest and the west because even though I bring people down south as well and up the north, but you know,
Always a great spot to visit. You have to
Galway's
visit.
a great spot to visit. Oh, I mean, the music on the streets and the atmosphere. There's a special type of atmosphere
There
in
is.
Galway. I have a son living just outside Galway, Renville village in Oranmore, and he loves it. You know, I often say to him, "Would you not consider coming over to America?" What would I be leaving Galway for? You
That's
know, and
gas.
there's so much talent, musical talent, artists, craftspeople. I mean, it really is.
Right.
Authors,
Yeah,
knitters. You know, it's just an amazing place.
it is for sure.
It
You have to
is,
come
yeah.
visit.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, I'll be contacting you, Stephen. Would you believe that we have run out of? That was a quick 30 minutes, wasn't it?
It really was. It was lovely chatting to you.
It was lovely chatting to you too. So, for anybody who would think about contacting Glenn, he has a website. It's GLENNGIBSON Sculptors SCULPTURES.com. And
It's sculpture, not sculptures.
sculptor,
No,
yes, .com.
sorry.
And if you're going to Galway or you know, you want to get a special piece made, contact him. It'll be a really unique gift. Or if you want to learn how to do this, he's got Zoom classes. You can buy the toolkit, book yourself into one of the Zoom classes, and you might end up working beside Glenn
There you go.
in his, in his amazing venue.
And you can also find me on Patreon as well.
Okay.
All that information is on my website. So I've set that up so people can pay for larger sculptures over a period of time rather than
Oh, brilliant, Glenn. That's a
one
great
big jump.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome, Glenn. And once again, Secret Ireland Tours has sponsored Chatting Up the Irish. So every Tuesday night, we put this out on Facebook and all our social media um, platforms like MeWe, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. It'll probably be a few weeks before you're on, Glenn, but I'll be letting people know when you're coming up. Thank you very much.
You have a great evening or
And you
morning.
too. The morning and day. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.